Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. I'm presenting this particular live feed on our YouTube channels, so we're trying to boost the number of people that are accessing us via YouTube, so hopefully at the end of the day we may be able to monetize it, and we'd really like your help in order for us to be able to do that, to help to provide some income for CPP. But in order to do so, we would also like you to subscribe and ring the bell and do your thing so that you can get further notifications as we post more and more videos to our CPP YouTube channel. So please do that. Please get involved. As issues become apparent, I'll do both feeds on both our Facebook page and our YouTube page. This particular feed is going just to our YouTube page though. So what we'd like you to do is to continue to be involved with us. That's vitally important. On this occasion, I am wishing to talk about an article that I came across in the Brisbane Times today that talked about youth suicide, children suiciding at extremely young ages, or at least having thoughts about suicide. Because we must remember that the thoughts that kids generate when they're young are the thoughts they build on as time goes by. And if you're having those sorts of sense of hopelessness and helplessness and so on when you're young, then those issues may continue later. And also, we need to look at exactly why it is that the kids are having those particular thoughts. And this particular article in Times made me think about, again, something that's not very far from our minds. I mean, one of the issues for us is about youth suicide and the increased number of kids that are suiciding, and the devastation that causes their family and people around them that love them, and of course the fact that they, then obviously aren't going to be able to contribute to society, and it's a great loss, and we ought to find out the reasons why it is occurring. And some of those reasons are around child protection system, and particularly kids being removed and the trauma that creates for them, separation from family and those people that love them. That's another reason that kids feel hopeless and helpless about their lives and think about ending their lives as the only solution that will get rid of the pain that they feel when being removed from their families. So this is an article that's in the Brisbane Times, and it's titled "Children as Young as 4 Suffering Suicidal Thoughts." And this is some research done by Professor Brett McDermott from the James Cook University and commissioned by the Queensland Child Death Review Board. And they provide insights into the drivers of suicide among children and young people known to the child protection system. So the cohort were those kids that were known to the child protection system in particular, and I guess it's for that reason that this is a vitally important bit of information. So and if that's their cohort, and if that's the people that the kids that they're looking at, then the information that comes from this is vital for those of us that care about the type of child protection system that we've got and how we need to change that system so that these kids are not as traumatised as they appear. So a paper from 2013 found very low prevalence of suicide attempts or planned before the age of 12. But more recently, in 2018, researchers reported suicidal ideation in 4 and 6-year-olds who had been maltreated. So we're jumping from a age group around 12 to 4 to 6-year-olds. Now, what's happening that means that these kids are now thinking about ending their own lives? And could it be the rate of children that are being removed, particularly in these lower age groups now, and that the rate of number of kids, the quantity, the amount, whatever, of kids being removed in that particular age group is increasing, and maybe this is the reason why these figures are showing what they are showing. Child Death Review Board Chair Cheryl Varden, who are the ones that commissioned this research, said the research found suicide was more prevalent in children with a mental health disorder, young people in contact with youth justice system, and those who experienced household dysfunction, alcohol or substance issues, or childhood trauma. And even though it's it's kind of okay for those statements to be made. That's not telling us anything we don't already know. We know that it's amongst the dysfunctionality around those kids that is causing part of the problem, and but we need to be able to find ways to deal with that dysfunctionality, not to allow it just to drift on and say, well, okay, throw our heads up in horror. No, there's nothing we can do about this, because of course there is something that we can do about it, and we could make sure that first we've got a far more equitable society that helps us to manage some of these things. So it goes on to say childhood trauma includes verbal, physical and sexual abuse and physical and emotional neglect, with research indicating a direct link between experience and suicidal thinking. Again, don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. She goes on to say, though, sadly, many children under Queensland Child Protection System are exposed to or have experienced one of the factors that can contribute to suicide, which increases their risk significantly. And we keep reiterating at the Child Protection Party that one of the issues that increases this is, so we accept that kids experience trauma at home, particularly where there's domestic violence and there's distinct mental well-being issues, kind of get all of that. But there's also the trauma of being removed from the family that loves you. And that is an issue that never gets addressed. So there's two issues. One is families that are dysfunctional, and number two, dealing with the issues that sit around that dysfunctionality. And then I guess there's a third issue, which is removing them from the family in the first place. So there's this triad of experiences that are never addressed, which causes this problem in terms of kids feeling hopeless and helpless about their lives. Ms. Varden said the research showed some groups were at a higher risk than others, with rates of suicide up to 4 times higher in young people in out-of-home care. All right, we rest our case, just highlight that bit. And out-of-home care, and between 4 and 12 times higher in Aboriginal. That's disgraceful. Between 4 and 12 times higher amongst kids who are Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander kids. Some concerning trends reported in the research include more lethal means being used to complete suicide, particularly among girls and children experiencing suicidal thoughts at young ages, with primary school children reported to have thought about suicide. And this is an interesting bit. So the research recommended greater investment to support the mental health of children known to the Child Protection System. Oh my God, here we go again. So we've been talking about this for years, that there needs to be a greater investment. Now, that investment doesn't necessarily have to be with regard to money, but admittedly money is helpful. It is a greater investment in managing the type of work that professionals do in this area, and particularly those people that remove the kids in the first place. So what are they investing in? When they talk about investments, they usually use about money. Is it about services? Hopefully that's about money. And including culturally appropriate suicide prevention services for Indigenous children. I guess they need to look at the root cause of kids being removed, and what exactly does that mean, and how can we resolve those problems. You know, frankly, folks, I'm kind of over being, how can I put it? I'm over us talking about all the research that comes out and tells us the same thing over and over and over again. And we come up with the same solutions over and over and over again. And there must come a time when we start to think, well, if these solutions are not solving the problem, in fact, as this research indicates, the problem is getting worse, then what do we need to do about it? Well, perhaps we need to think outside the box. Perhaps we need to have a look at some of the real issues that are there. And that to some extent, that may include actually biting the bullet and saying, there are some families where they are dysfunctional. Got it. There are some families where some damage may be done to children, regretfully. But the damage done additionally by removing them may be greater than the damage done by keeping them within those families. And we need to make those sort of evaluations. And then we need to put services in place that will ensure that the parents and those caregivers of these kids are addressing the problems that would have caused the department to have become interested in them in the first place. So they're the things that we need to be doing. The question is, are we doing it, or are we just going to produce reports like this over and over again that tell us the same information but don't change anything? Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care, look after yourselves, and be safe.